This is Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, and the artist formerly known as Blayne Gilmer. We are Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes. Every week we preview every single game involving SEC football teams. This one of the more anticipated games of the year. Alabama travels to LSU for a game that can be seen on ESPN at 6 Central and might be a little party atmosphere in Baton Rouge, Blayne.
No doubt. As you can see, it's going to be the people of Baton Rouge will be well lubricated going into this one. Night game there, in Death Valley, and what an atmosphere for football. Like, if just over the years, we've seen epic matchups between these two programs, especially in Death Valley. And it's just going to be exciting to see another one. Last year in Tuscaloosa, it was a kind of throw the records out the window type deal. Max Johnson, who's now, broken hand and all, banished to College Station. And I do say banished because that is a punishment over there. But when you talk about LSU, they always seem to play Alabama tough, Blake.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is, as we said, guys, I mean, we did the Georgia-Tennessee game, and now this game, we couldn't have asked for a better setup in terms of the path forward and the significance of these two games. And obviously you're looking at this one and understanding that we've said many times, LSU certainly controls their destiny at this point. They win this game. They are set up in a very pretty spot in the stretch run. And for Alabama, they are a missed field goal away from still being unbeaten at this point. And for some reason, I still feel like, Alabama's ranked I think the top 6 or something like that in the newest AP poll, but it still feels like, we're not even really Alabama's kind of the forgotten team. A lot of people asked that in our live stream we did, whenever that was, Chris. It all runs together, but I haven't forgotten about Alabama, and I think they're still pretty talented. But this LSU team, they have been on a tear right now, and that makes this matchup even that more scintillating here in terms of what the possibilities are.
When Alabama has the ball, the Crimson Tide averaged 43.1 points a game, LSU giving up 21.5. Alabama's lost 6 fumbles. LSU has recovered 8. Alabama's thrown 5 picks, which is the same amount LSU has recorded. Bama's been sacked a dozen times. LSU has sacked quarterback 17 times. Taking out sacks when Bama runs the ball, 6.6 per carry. LSU giving up 4.7. And Alabama averaging 7.4 yards a pass play. You'd think that number would be a little higher. And, of course, some of that is Jalen Milroe playing quarterback. And LSU giving up 6.3 yards per throw. What do we make of the matchup on this side, starting with you, Blayne?
Well, you see, Bryce Young, he's from Hogwarts because he's a wizard. He makes people miss. He makes things disappear that was there, like his body was there at one point, and a defensive lineman just totally misses it. He's been running for his life against Mississippi State, literally running around for 9-10 seconds and then just completing balls in the end zone. Even when Alabama can't pee a drop running the football, ran for 29 total yards against Mississippi State, he's able to make it all go. As long as Alabama has number 9 back there, you have to like their chances to be highly productive on the offensive side. Now, if he gets banged up a little bit, if B.J. Ojulari, if Perkins for LSU, those type of guys are able to make some noise back there in the backfield and actually get home, Bryce Young is on the more slender side. We have seen him have some injury things throughout his career. So, being able to hit him, being able to get home is the key for that LSU team, because I think they're going to be fine when it comes to stopping the run, even though I think Jahmyr Gibbs is excellent, is going to be a great pro and has already done some great things for Alabama. But what I think it boils down to is, can these pass rushers, some of these guys up front, B.J. Ojulari, Ali Gay, Harold Perkins, all these kind of guys for LSU, like, can they get home and actually take Bryce Young to the ground? Because if you don't, you even saw that Tennessee game, 1 sack for Tennessee He tortures them for 455. And, even though they lose that game, it wasn't the offense's fault. They put up 49 points.
Yep, we called him the magician in that game, but he's been the magician many more times throughout his career in terms of the plays he can make. And that's what you said, Blayne, in terms of just the LSU defense up front and their ability to just make things interesting on Bryce Young is probably, I don't think you're going to stop him, but just be able to take him down, because otherwise, I mean, this guy has just proven time and time again that he can make those plays that you don't think anyone else can, but he has proven that he can make those. And obviously, I think that's, the biggest key to success here for Alabama is to have him in that comfort zone, which will probably not be very comfortable. A night game in Baton Rouge already, I think, given the atmosphere, everything we talked about, Chris, the penalties, those kind of things as well. Could that factor into a game like this for Alabama offensively? We saw it, do that a little bit against Tennessee, especially early on. That was something to keep in mind. The amount of penalties, I brought it up in the other video we did with Tennessee and Georgia, but the early penalties, I think, and Alabama's adjustment to that, especially on offense, false starts, those kind of things. I think those are the kind of things you're looking at here. But if you're just talking about it from a skill standpoint, obviously we know what Bryce Young can do. We know what Jahmyr Gibbs can do at any time. He can break off for a huge play. But I think everything, offensively at least, I mean, it's going to go through Bryce Young, and we're not saying anything no one, already knows. But I think having that duo of Young and Gibbs and just their playmaking ability, LSU's defense obviously has to be ready for that. And I'm just curious to see, like Blayne said, if they up front are able to get those sacks on Bryce Young, because if you don't, he can carve you up. So.
Okay, before we talk about the matchup on the other side of the ball, quick word from our partners at Stakes. That's Stakes. Huge games coming up this week in the SEC. To add more excitement, we are making predictions in the Stakes app under the handle Southeastern 14. We want to see if you guys agree or disagree with our takes. So go to playwithstakes.com/14. Sign up for Stakes. Place your predictions, whether you like our predictions or are against our predictions. Let us know in the app. If you use the invite code Southeastern14 when you sign up, you get a double welcome bonus. Really fun app, guys. It is not a sports betting app. It is just an app to make predictions. So it's free to join, free to play. When you beat us, let us know about it. But most of all, support our sponsor Stakes. Have fun. And by the way, win stuff there while you're at it. That's hard to beat. Having fun, winning stuff, maybe beating us. Anyway, go to Stakes. Do all those things.
Sounds like Alabama and LSU. Have fun, win. They're both
does.
doing that.
That both are winning a lot. Alabama, that defense has been much maligned, but even so, Crimson Tide just giving up 16.6 a game. LSU scoring 35.1. Alabama's lost 5 fumbles. LSU's recovered 7. Bama's only thrown 3 picks. That's the exact number that LSU has picked off. And Alabama has registered 23 sacks. LSU's given up 26. That's a trouble spot. Taking sacks out of it, Alabama is giving up 3.6 per run play. LSU getting 5.7, and then LSU getting 6.6 a pass play. Alabama only giving up 4.8 per pass play. Guys, this is an interesting matchup because LSU has gotten a whole lot out of Jaden Daniels lately, who is, yes, indeed, running the ball a lot.
He runs a lot. When design runs, he runs a lot because, like I said, like you pointed out, he's been sacked a lot. I will point out that in fairness to the LSU offensive line, I think 5 or 6 of those sacks, I'm not sure the exact number, came against a Tennessee team when they lost Will Campbell on short notice and then also lost their left guard early in that game. So that kind of bolstered that total a lot, but still a high amount. I do have to think that when it comes down to it, and I should have pointed this out on the offensive side for Alabama as well, but it applies on the defensive side too. Alabama is one of the most penalized teams in the country, 8.6 penalties per game. That ranks 126th in the entire country. That is not the discipline that you typically see out of a Nick Saban coached team. And the thing about Brian Kelly, if there's one thing that he hangs his hat on, it's bringing some discipline and some order, and that was the whole thing that that kind of brought him to LSU, right? Because of the kind of the chaos and the disorder that Ed Orgeron let things get to that mark. So I think what you're gonna need to see is LSU be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively. They've had two of their better rushing performances as of late against Florida and against Ole Miss, and really got a compliment to Jaden Daniels, right? Because Jaden Daniels has been running the ball a lot, Chris and Blake, but he now has Williams that has stepped up in the backfield with him and been productive. They've even got Armani Goodwin going a little bit with him as well. So if they can be efficient in the run game, then I think that you'll see Jaden Daniels be able to have opportunities, because I think LSU, I almost got, torched on our live stream for saying they have a as talented wide receiver core as Tennessee, which they do. They just don't have the same system. Those guys are every bit as talented. And if Jaden Daniels can find ways to get him the ball, I think that there's plays to be made against that Alabama secondary, even with Eli Ricks making his what I'm sure will be an emotional return to Baton Rouge. Blake, what's your opinion of this LSU offense versus Alabama's defense?
Well, aside from the fact that Jaden Daniels runs more than Forrest Gump, I mean, it is a situation where you look at his numbers. I mean, look, do I think he's going to go for 3 touchdowns on the ground for his 3rd consecutive game? Again, probably not. But I mean, we see this guy's ability, and I can remember. I'm going to tip the cap to Blayne too, because Blayne called this early in the season in terms of talking about the potential with Jaden Daniels, and I think you could see some of those. His numbers have been efficient, and I think that's something that you really look at here. Aside from that Auburn game, I mean, this guy has been pretty good, like we said, overall. I mean, I know the touchdowns are going to stand out in recent games, but this is still a guy, and I think I may have said this last week, that feels like now he has complete command of this offense in terms of what they're able to do. And Blayne talked about the talent at wide receiver. And I think just having all the confidence in the world coming into this game, and even knowing that Alabama's probably going to get some pressure here and be able to chase him around. But we've seen what he can do even in those scenarios. And I think that's going to be something, obviously, that's going to be a key for LSU offensively is, obviously try to protect Jaden Daniels. It may be tough to do, but he is capable, I think, of still putting them in a spot offensively, where they're still going to have success. And I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, Tennessee was able to put some yards up on the ground against Alabama. Obviously, they did a lot through the air, but that was still something too that you look at. And so can LSU get that same kind of push to be able to get some of those yards? But in the passing game, like Blayne said, I mean, I think LSU can certainly challenge Alabama here, just given the talent of that wide receiver group. And again, just kind of knowing that obviously Mississippi State could not find a way to crack that, but this is a road game, Baton Rouge, all those different things. And again, penalties we talked about, even, I think that's still something too on the defensive side of the ball too, to keep in mind here. So, I mean, could you ask for kind of a better setup for LSU in terms of the confidence and the fact that your quarterback has proven that he's one of the best in the league at this point? And, coming in riding a high against this Alabama defense that is probably not the Alabama defenses that, it's still a very talented, don't get me wrong. Like, this is still a very good Alabama defense, but as we've said, guys, we've been able to see some of those things that other teams have been able to do. Can LSU do the same thing here?
Okay, wrapping it up here, some miscellaneous things. You mentioned the penalties. Alabama is getting penalized for 72 yards a game. LSU a little bit better at 59, but that's not a great number. Special teams, Alabama good, not great, 35. And FEI's special teams rankings, LSU 128. Means there's 3 teams in the FBS worse than LSU on special teams, according to FEI's formula. Strength of schedule, according to Jeff Sagarin, Alabama 18, LSU 24. And Blake, this is the part where you come in, usually with the aid of covers.com, and give us some trends and things like that of interest. So fire away.
Yeah. I mean, not a ton here, I think, to sink your teeth into, except If you are a bettor, as we say, we're not professional bettors, but if you're just looking for some interesting betting trends, we do like to look at covers and give you some kind of interesting notes. The road team is 6-0 against the spread in the last 6 games between these two teams over the years. Of course, Alabama, the road team here, and favored by, I think it's up to 13 now in this one. Of course, Alabama 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 games in Baton Rouge. That's something to keep in mind. The under 6-1 in the last 7 games in Baton Rouge between these two teams.
Okay, gentlemen, we have started maybe a new thing with Blayne's name tag. We have brought urination and wizardry into this. We have hit just about every angle. So with that, I'll let you know, of course, the over-under in the line we have is 12.5 in Alabama's favor, 58.5 over-under. By the way, if you take the average of what these teams have scored and given up, the over-under is almost right at it. It would be 58. Vegas has put it as we're doing it 58.5. Predicted final based on all that would be 36-23 in Alabama's favor. All right, who have you got? We'll start with Blake.
I thought we always start with Blayne. Why don't you go to me first on this one? Every single time this year, we've gone to Blayne first, and now you're going to switch it up in one of the biggest games of the season and go to me first.
Is this like cheating off your neighbor's paper?
Yeah,
like
this is like, what are you doing, man?
Said?
We had a flow, everything was going great, and now it's all disrupted. No, I'm kidding. It's going to be the third team that LSU has played at home this season that has been ranked in the top 8. Right? Tennessee was ranked 8th, Ole Miss 7, Alabama 6, and of course a mixed bag in terms of the results there. They blew out Ole Miss. They got blown out by Tennessee. So I think it's hard to know, but as Blayne said, I think some of that personnel you could look at LSU in that Tennessee game could certainly be a factor. This is a hard one for me, guys, because I think if you set aside the Arkansas game, right? We've said it, and there were even times in Arkansas game where Alabama was a little bit vulnerable, but they built up such a big lead. I don't know if you put into that, but we mentioned on the road to Texas, atmosphere, penalties, right? That was a big key. Tennessee, same thing, a lot of penalties, but they're still there with a chance to win that game. A lot of me really wants to pick LSU here because I just love the way Jaden Daniels has been playing. And I just think that this is a team that we said easily from game 1 to where they are now. I'd say, guys, and I'm not just saying the SEC, I'd have to say one of the most improved teams in the country at this point in terms of where LSU started in that Florida State game to where they are now. All that said, the magician is on the other side, and I think this is the kind of game where, like, I feel like there is a sense of people have forgotten about Alabama here, even though that they're 7-1. I don't think LSU's forgotten about Alabama, but I'm going to pick Bryce Young here and that offense to put up enough points against this LSU game. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are quite a few points put up in this one. I know Chris, you said the over under I think is 58. It's an interesting number, I guess, but I just think Bryce Young and this Alabama offense gets enough going to find a way to win.
Yeah, I feel like the easy pick is taking LSU to cover. 12.5 seems like an awful lot in Death Valley at night, where, as Blayne has suggested, some folks may have consumed some beverages. So I will take LSU to cover, Alabama to win, and I guess the over, but I don't have a great feel.
I think one thing that we haven't talked about yet is, both these teams are coming off a bye, right? And a lot of the national narrative out there when Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame is that, he is every bit as good a coach as some of these other coaches you see out there, as the Nick Sabans, as the Ryan Days and all that stuff, but he just didn't have the talent, right, at Notre Dame to match up with it. You remember the national championship game where they just blew Notre Dame's doors off. So now he's at LSU, and while they're not top to bottom every bit as talented as Alabama, the talent gap is minimal. LSU has recruited very, very well over the years, even with some of the stuff with Ed Orgeron. So he's going to have a talented squad. He's going to have them at home. Can Brian Kelly match wits with Nick Saban, who coming off a bye week is going to have a great plan? I like LSU to get started fast. I like LSU to have that crowd momentum, but I also like Bryce Young to break their hearts at the end because you've seen him do it time and time again. Alabama does not play well on the road, but Bryce Young finds a way to win. He did it at Texas earlier this year. He did it against Auburn in the Iron Bowl last year at the end of the season. It came up just short against Tennessee. I think he'll reverse, get right back to business, and beat Alabama or beat LSU late. Give me LSU to cover, but Alabama to win.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes. Again, we preview every single SEC football game this season. We have rolled out some basketball content, got a lot more of that to come this week. We do Wednesday night live streams. We'll do baseball when it's that time too. So we are your channel for all things with those SEC sports. Anyway, thank you to our partner Stakes. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our content. And we'll see you again soon with our next SEC preview video.